Hello and welcome back to Green Valley Zoo, episode 7 today. And in this episode I'm putting in otters, one of my favourite animals. And it's actually a two-part video, this one, because you've got the habitat, as you can see in the middle here. And then because of the way I built the habitat, the surrounds took me quite a long time to figure out as well, and so I've actually split the video in two. So this first part is the habitat, and then the second part will be detailing around the outside of this raised platform. So the thinking here, I wanted to try some sort of new way of the people viewing the habitat, and so I came up with the idea of it being a raised walkway around the outside. This is certainly something that I've seen myself in zoos, and it means that you're looking down at the animals, and it wouldn't work with all animals because some animals would find that intimidating, having people above them. But certainly otters aren't shy at all. They're very friendly, and they certainly don't mind being around people. And so I thought it would work quite well for this particular habitat. So this, the start here, you can see I'm just building a shelter for them. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to have the water. Obviously they do like to swim, and they like to dive, so I had to make the water fairly deep. But what I wanted was a small shelter like this with a ramp leading directly into the water. Again, it's something that I have seen in real life, and so I thought that would be kind of fun to do because they love running up ramps. There's always ramps in their enclosures. They like water slides. Well, I don't want to do a water slide because I've seen other zoo builders do that. I wanted to do just a normal ramp rather than a slippery slide. So you can see what I've done here. Just getting the otters in because you've got to make sure that they can get up and down the ramp and that sort of thing. So I got, I think, 6 otters, which I thought was a good sized colony. Thought I'd get them in and see if they were happy. Unfortunately they couldn't get up the ramp because I realised these posts have quite a large hitbox, so I had to sink them down underneath, and then the ramp worked fine. However, I quickly discovered, as you can see on the right there, that they didn't have enough room, land space or diving, although the diving with these otters is terrible, quite frankly. I mean, if you look at the amount of water they've got there's plenty there, yet the game thinks that there's not enough water space for them. But I'm not fussed about that. Like I've said before, I've turned off the welfare. You know, as long as I'm happy that it looks realistic, then that's what I'm going with, and I am. I did make, as you can see, the habitat had to be a bit bigger because I did agree that they didn't have enough land space, so I just had to extend the habitat and extend the walkway, which actually I think works out really well because you'll see in the next episode what I end up doing with the outside of the walkway. I was very happy with the result, but I couldn't have done it with the original walkway. Here I just thought I'd make the water a bit bigger, just make it deeper, and try and make a shallower slope at one end as well to create a nice entrance for the otters, you know, sort of a little beach type environment, and just moved the shelter around just to make it look a bit nicer. And I also thought, because I realised when the animals were in there, they weren't actually going up and down the slope, although it turns out that they do. But what I came up with in the end was to actually add another ramp at the back end of the shelter so they could get on from the land as well as the water. And that works out really nicely actually, and they do use it and they sleep in it and they run up and down the ramp and all sorts. So yeah, really happy with how that has turned out. And yeah, I did have a lot of trouble with the barriers. It's quite tricky when you're doing barriers around paths when they're not the null barriers. The null barriers can go anywhere, whereas obviously the other ones can't. And so you end up not being able to get the barriers really snug up against the side of pathways, which is a bit annoying, but it just means that you have to come up with creative ways of covering up the barriers, which you'll see me doing in a minute. First here, I'm just putting in some rocks. I do love rock formations in this game. I think they can really make a habitat sparkle, makes them look so much more realistic. And it creates a nicer looking edge than the natural land barriers. So here I'm just trying to, it's obviously fake, all of this would be fake, but I'm trying to make it look as natural as possible while also obvious that it's all artificial, and of course trying to make it so that the otters can navigate all around the pond and actually climb up and down on the rocks. And again, it's a very simple thing, but it works very nicely. Here you can see the otters going up and down the ramp there, which was great to see. But I did just want to add this extra ramp at the back end as well. Just gives the otters a bit of extra accessibility into their shelter. I think in real life there would be a ramp on both the water side and the land side. Yes, the giant rhubarb. I love the giant rhubarb. It's called Gunnera in real life. I think I can't remember what it's called in this. I think it is just called giant rhubarb in this, but its real name is Gunnera, and it's actually a plant that I love. I have one in my own garden, and I have it in a couple of the gardens that I work in real life as well. And it is a fantastic plant. The size of the leaves is truly remarkable. When it's fully grown and when it's in the perfect habitat, the leaves can get to about 10 feet tall, and you can actually walk right underneath them. And they grow back each year. Every year you cut them to the ground, and they grow back. So they can grow these huge 10-foot high leaves. Within a couple of months of being nothing, they can be 10 foot tall. They are truly amazing plants. They're incredibly architectural. I love the look of them, and I do love the look of them in this game. However, they aren't traversable at all for any animal as far as I know. I think some of the monkeys might be able to actually sit on them and jump on top of the leaves and sit on them, which is a bit strange. But they can't walk through them and underneath them. But I wanted them in this habitat because I just thought they suited the environment, and in real life the otters would love them because they'd be able to go and shelter underneath the giant leaves. Unfortunately, in the game, the otters can't actually do that. So it's a good job that I made the habitat a bit bigger so that I could get them in there and not worry too much about them blocking all of the traversable area. You can see I'm just putting down some enrichment, pretty straightforward, just keeping the otters entertained. And obviously the foliage again, I've gone with all my favourites, my ferns, and the bracken. I think they just look fantastic, and they look natural because bracken and ferns, they grow in all environments, and they grow in little cracks and crevices in the rocks in real life, and so putting them around it just makes it look natural, makes it look like they've seeded themselves. So here, this is my answer to covering up the border along the raised platform. Just a simple construct with some nice wooden boarding, and you because it's an inward curve, it makes it very easy to do this. You just keep on replicating it and putting them next to each other. It's a really simple technique, but it covers it up and it looks nice. It creates a nice looking border. So yeah, really happy with how this turns out. I also put in one of the I forget what it's called, but the tree with the red flowers on. You'll see I put one in as a full-grown tree. I think I also sunk one into the ground. Again, I'll probably do that quite a lot because I think it's one of my favourite trees, and they just look fantastic. They create a really nice bit of undergrowth for animals to crawl into. This was a pain, I'll be honest, trying to work out how to get this particular bit of the barrier looking nice. On this side it wasn't too bad, but this side was tricky because I couldn't move the post to where I wanted it. I wanted the post to be right at the end of the wooden slats that I put in, but it couldn't, I think because of the path. But I've had problems with the path in this game where if you delete a bit of path, you then struggle to put it back again. And then obviously you can undo actions and that, but I just didn't want the faff of trying to delete the path and move the barrier and then risk not being able to put the path back again. So I ended up just manipulating the barrier a little bit, which I think I do in a minute actually. And then I was starting to think about what I could do on the outside, and this is the problem with raised paths. You end up with this a huge amount of area on the outside that you need to cover up, and it's a very hard thing to do without it just looking too big and too fake and too repetitive as well. Actually, I'll get back to that in a minute. Let's just talk about what I'm doing on the inside here first. I thought because I used log floor for the pathway, I thought it would be nice to have this sort of random log pattern around the inside. In real life it wouldn't really work as a barrier because it's too small, and people inevitably, because humans are humans, you'd end up with somebody jumping over there or falling over there, and that wouldn't be good. But for the sake of the game, I was quite happy to use these logs in a bit of a random up and down formation. I think it works really well actually, but you'll see once I'm done on the inside of this this pathway, I had an idea of doing something along the outside of the pathway, which doesn't work at all, but I did leave it in because I wanted to at least show you my thinking. Yeah, it didn't work, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So you'll see on the outside what I was talking about. You end up with this raised platform with a huge gap to try and fill up, and obviously on the inside I filled it up with the wooden construction, and that looks quite nice. But you really struggle to do that on the outside because of the way it curves. It's not as easy to use the same technique, and it ends up looking awful. I have tried it before and it just doesn't work. So I had to try and think of a way of doing the outside which wasn't the same all the way around, because it ends up, even if you come up with a good idea, it can look way too repetitive because it's quite a large area. So I had to try and think of some different ideas, and that's what the second video is going to be about. While this first video will end, I think, in a minute once I'm done just decorating this in this inside area. I think this is when I had my idea for the outside was to do a similar thing with the same logs. I wanted to create some sort of canopy, was my thinking. And well, you'll see what I do here. I wanted to keep it random again, and I had this idea of something like like you can see here, just I don't know what it was going to be, to be honest. Some sort of wooden shelter canopy, but in the end it didn't look good, and if I'd done it across the whole area it would have looked too big, too fake, too expensive as well for a zoo, really, too impractical. So yeah, nice idea, but you got to try these things, but they don't always work. I think in a small area, I think this might work as a small canopy of some sort over a walkway, and I may well do it again somewhere in the park. But yeah, I did a couple of them, and I just thought, no, that's not going to work all the way around the outside. It's going to look too big and too messy. So I didn't like that idea, which was good because that encouraged me to rethink the outside and to come up with a better idea, which thankfully I managed to. which you'll see in the next short video. Here just doing some detailing, obviously just covering up the edges of the path again, because you know me, I don't like to see the edge of the path, and this is my usual technique, just using these concrete beams. I think they just look fantastic. They're absolutely perfect for just filling in small gaps. You know, just covering up these edges, and it's exactly what you'd see in a real zoo. You know, you would see these stepped edges all around pathways and things. And I thought just on this corner here, it would be a perfect place to have it, so that I could place a flower pot on the corner. You know, because I want to try and keep the greenery going as much as I can in this park. I want to have flower pots and things wherever they're appropriate, and obviously little areas like that, when you cover them up, they're just perfect. They're just crying out for some sort of a plant or foliage on them. So that's exactly what I do in a minute. And here again, just covering up these edges, and it's a small detail, but it just adds so much. It really does. It really just finishes off the areas very nicely indeed. And here, just coming back to this, I come back to the barrier in just a moment, just trying to figure out how to do this barrier on the left. This one, you see, this was the idea. I just wanted to raise it up so that it followed the line of the path, and on this side it worked really nicely. Just needed to fill in the gap, just make sure it, you know, everything looks nice. But on this side, you can see I was trying to move the post, and it wouldn't go. So I end up just having to raise the post where it is. Oh yes, I did try, and I thought the idea of having a fence on there, and you know, I put it on, and it doesn't work. It doesn't look good. Doesn't stay for long. And in the end, I think I do just end up simply just raising up the brick barrier, and I think yeah, it works. You know, it's not perfect, I don't think, but it does the job in the end. Here I do love these metal fences, but they didn't work in this situation. They just didn't quite suit the environment. They didn't look right. I liked the wood. I'd already got brick and wood and stone, and having metal as well. It was too many different materials in one place. You can see they just look so out of place. It wasn't working at all. Just a quick heads up, I'm not going to do a real-time segment in this video. I'm going to save that for the end of the next video, because the next video is all about the outside of this enclosure, this habitat. So there's no point doing a real time at the end of this one, because I might as well do it all at once. And because I'm recording some of these things a long time after I've actually built more of the zoo, if I do a real-time segment now, I'll end up showing you half of the next videos in advance, which I don't want to do. You can see just putting the big flower pot down on the corner there. It's so easy to create nice flower pots in this game. I absolutely love doing it. And again here, I just thought I wanted some of these lovely lipstick palms up on the top. So just keeping it simple with these. You don't need to cover up the stems with these, like I did in that last pot. The bamboo stems in that particular one don't look great, but the stems of this lipstick palm look fantastic on their own, so they really don't need anything else in the pots with them. So just a few of these around the outside, and we're coming to the end of the video. I think I may just have a little bit more work at the end here on the barrier, which I struggled with. I'll be honest, I did this, I actually recorded this well over a week ago now, so I can't quite remember how the barrier ended up looking. So this is quite good fun for me, because I end up remembering what I did and why I did it. Oh yes, more pathway around the outside here. I had this idea that I wanted to do that, and it gave me options for what I do with the outside area, which you'll see in the next video turned out very nicely indeed. You can see I actually put another little shelter in at the back of the otter enclosure there, and in fact that has changed again since I recorded this, so I'll show you that in the real-time segment. Here you can see just raising up this barrier, and I think that's how it ends up being. Not 100% happy with it, but it's okay. So we're coming to the end of this video now, so thank you very much for watching. Like I said, there's no real time, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much indeed. Bye for now.